excited to have you back for another Mango Voice YouTube interview. How are you doing today?
Much better. As you know, my voice was gone and made jokes about, recording an episode of how not to answer the phone when you have no voice.
Yeah,
So a lot better now and glad to be back on the show with you, Laura.
that's awesome. That's awesome. So that leads us to what the topic's going to be today. So I'm glad that we kind of waited till you had your voice back because what I want to talk about in this episode is telephones. So you've been running your dental office. You've done a lot of my training that I have. You have a lot of philosophy theories that I believe also, but I want to hear from you, from Zach. Tell me what your perspective is of the importance of the telephones and just kind of your wisdom around that for any doctors or team members watching this.
Yeah, importance of the phone. I don't think people realize how much your practice lives and breathes through your phone. Like it's the beginning end of your practice. I was actually just talking to Kevin about that,
Kevin
and I
from
was like,
Mango, our
yeah.
CEO. Yeah,
And I'm like, people don't understand how detrimental they're affecting their practice when they're not answering the phone like after like the third ring. They're not calling patients back in a timely manner if they miss their call. They're not tracking and tracing any of those metrics. Like that is a patient calls your office. I tell people all the time, I'm like, a new patient calls your practice and you don't answer. I'm like, what does that patient do? Like they don't sit and wait for you to call them back. They go to the next person on the list on Google and call that office. And guess what? If they answer the phone right away, you just lost that patient. Like we get one shot. It's just like that first interaction with a new patient when they come into practice. Like this is before that. This is like way more important because if we're not good on the phones, the patient's not going to buy in to come see you.
right. Exactly.
Right.
Okay. So let's back up then as an office manager. So when you are hiring, when you are training, what are your things you're looking for? How do you make sure to train your employees to understand the importance of that and how to answer the phones right?
Yeah. One, you set expectations from the beginning, right? You explain to them, like, when we're answering a phone, it's not just answering a phone call. Cause a lot of times we get on our phone, like, I got my phone here. I'm like, you call me. I'm like, hey, what's up, Laura? How are you?
Yeah.
Like, and we can just talk direct because we're friends. But we don't know these patients. So we're trying to set an expectation for the patient. And then I'm trying to set expectation for my team. What does that experience look like and sound like? And I'll call them sometimes and I'm like, this is me talking to you, normal. This is me talking to you when I'm smiling and I'm excited to talk to you. Do you hear the difference in my voice? And I'm not doing anything different when I'm talking. I'm just changing my facial expression. It looks funny, but it changes how my voice sounds on the phone.
Yeah.
And if you sound like you hate your job on the phone, like they're not going to want to come in. So we start talking about like what we're actually doing, but then also it's not just facial expressions of how you sound, but it's also, are you listening to what the patient's telling you? Right. I tell my team all the time, when a patient calls the phone at the office, the first thing you should be doing is typing that name in to your PMS to see if they're an existing patient. If they are, looking at their chart as they're talking to you to see what you can find out about this patient. Because if you can answer questions for them before they can ask them, they're gonna be like, dang, you're a mind reader.
Right.
And be like, hey, I noticed you called us before we had a new patient appointment scheduled for you, but it looks like you had to cancel. Is that what you're calling for to reschedule? They're like, oh my gosh, yes, that's exactly what I need to do.
Yeah.
So we're trying to get on the forefront of that and train them to really look, see, and listen to all the different things that are going on with these calls to make sure that we start that experience up here.
So do you have one person answering the phone? Do you train all your team members in answering phone? How do you hire for that?
Yeah, great question. I love you. You asked the hard ones. We have a lot of people answering the phone. So on the general side, so our practice is split down the middle. We have pediatric and general. So it's big old post office that we tore down to the bones and rebuilt. We've got two separate entrances, but once you get past the lobbies, the building intertwines. So it's one big beautiful
I
merriment
gotta
of
come
two
see it
practices.
sometime.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
you got
sounds
to come
awesome.
down here. It's awesome. So the front desk is like a big half circle. So there's three on one side and three on the other. And so we have, six people answering the phones, three on the pediatric side, three on the general side. And then we also have my insurance and billing coordinator. She answers the phone. If there's billing questions, come to that one. So, I mean, we've got a lot of people and a lot of voices in the pot of, answering and, doing things in a timely manner and directing calls where they need to go. Because a lot of times patients are like wanting to explain something. And a lot of times we're like, well, just hold for a second. And it's like, but they want to get their sentence out. They want to say what they need to say. And those are hard things to train or hire. I don't want to say train, but hire and know beforehand, right? So some of it you do kind of have to take a shot. So the biggest thing I look for when I meet somebody is I look at their smile. I look at how they present themselves and introduce themselves. Do they look at me in the eye when they talk? I'm big on that. I'm big on that with my boys. I do look for things that they use in their verbiage that they use. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. I was raised very old school, and I always, no matter who I'm talking to, whether they're younger than me or older than me, I say yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. And I try to speak with the same respect that I would get. And I look people in the eyes when I talk. So I look for things that I have been raised on that I feel like are good mutual general respects in the way we communicate as humans. Because if we're not able to look at each other in the eyes when we're talking, we're not engaged. And if we're not engaged in person, we're not engaged on the phone because it's so easy to just not be in a conversation. I mean, I could sit like this and talk the whole time and stare out my window and have a completely different conversation and experience with you because I'm not engaged with Laura in front of me talking about phones. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and that was one of the things that I talk about phones is that people say, "Yeah, I know how to answer the phones." Well,
Yeah.
it's very different to pick up a phone and go, "Hello," than it is, "I know how to answer the phone of a dental office or a very busy dental office."
Yes.
And
Yes.
so we don't even know that till when they come in until we can really test them and see if they're good at that. And then we do have to make expectations, like you said, of what that looks like. So give me some of besides the nonverbal and the paying attention and all of that, give me some of the basic requirements. Like when do they need to answer the phone by? Does one person answer? And if they can't, does it overflow? How do you
Yeah.
handle phones?
So now we handle phones a bit differently using Mango. And I'm just going to brag on Mango because it's the Mango channel and we're talking
Right?
about phones. Like we have to. Mango has done something that nobody else in the industry has done with the switchboard. Like we rely on phone companies outside of Mango to set up a phone system that we ask for it to go to one phone. Like so we have a phone, like a hunt group is what, we call it, is it'll ring like three rings and then it'll go to the next person and they'll go to the next person if they don't, and then it'll go to voicemail. So it kind of chimes through all of our users before it goes to voicemail in hopes that, maybe the first one was busy. Our girls are very good at, like, if they can't get it and they see their co-partner next door to them, they'll hit reject so it only rings once and then it'll be on the second one to the next person. Because we have an expectation, like a patient calls, I don't want to sit on the phone and call, like let it ring for 30 rings. Like I my buddies, if I call my buddies, I don't let it get to voicemail. Like if it rings 4 times, I know they're busy and I hang up and I'm like, they'll call me back later. So that's one of the big things. But then, like, just being able to use the scripting that we say, like consistency when you answer the phone. Like we say, thank you for choosing Satellite Family Dentistry. This is Zach. How may I help you? Because they chose to call us. And I want to thank them right off the bat of saying, thank you for choosing our practice. Because we're using that ability to appreciate our patients before they even walk through the door, and like try to set that standard every time they call. We have an ortho practice that does it really well too. It's a great day at Schumacher Orthodontics. Everybody answers it the same way. You know what you're getting, and that's that type of expectation you set for your patient is good verbal skills, but also scripting to an extent where it's not robotic. Everybody has their little bit of, their little nuances on it and energy on it, but we all answer the phone the same way because that also shows that we're a team. And so with the switchboard, we used other companies, competitors of Mango, and then, like big corporate phones, and they never worked how they were set up. And when I did a demo with Rich and we were following through on the switchboard, I was like blown away of like, you can literally trace the call on your computer screen exactly where you want it to go, what you want it to do. And I firmly now know my phones do exactly what I tell them to do and they go where they need to go. And when we need to switch things, like the interface has been so useful because then we can say, okay, it's ringing here, now it's ringing here, now it's ringing there, and then voicemail. Or no, this one, if they hit this option, let's bring it around this way and send it that way. Because we have different ways on our switchboard, whether we're open or we're closed, and what options that they have.
That's really interesting. So I'm newer with Mango. I mean, I've been a
Yeah.
super fan, but I'm a newer employee. So I don't know all the technology side of Mango yet. I'm just
Yeah.
really coming out here talking about AI and things. And if you think about it now, kind of listening to you, it's like all the technology we have in our office, right? You know how you want something to work and
Yeah.
how it has to change. And up until this, what you're saying is, and I believe this, like phones were just this thing, this
Yeah.
you used it or not. If it was working, great. If not, landlines, VoIP, whatever. But now you actually have full control depending on what's going on that day or who's in or who's out or after hours or whatever, just like you would another piece of equipment in the office.
Yeah. And the other thing is too, like there's no restrictions, like as many barriers you want to put in there and you want to get crazy with it, like you can do it. And I don't need to call support. It's like I get right in and drag and drop. And that the ease of that and getting the phones to function how they should then makes it easy for my team to say, okay, this is what needs to happen and what needs to do, like it needs to do. They have been set up in such a better manner than any other company I've ever worked with. Like Mango, if you guys are listening to these and you're on the fence of using Mango, the amount of time they take on just setup to make sure they're integrated into your system correctly is impressive. I've had other phone systems that are like an hour they were done. And I'm like, so it all works? Like, yeah, you're good. And I'm like, I don't know. And sure enough, they weren't working correctly. Where Mango took, several hours going through and it seems tedious, but it's done right. And we only did it one time. And I've never, I mean, I'm impressed, never had a single issue with our phone system since we've integrated. And we're in our second year.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. So now you mentioned something that is always the big thing of the questions I get, like when I'm speaking, is we have to be good at multitasking. And so you just
Yeah.
said my team members have to focus on the phone call, take care. But I got a person sitting in front of me, a patient, or the doctor's over here. I'm doing, like insurance, whatever. So
Mhm.
how do you work with your team on that? What do you teach them? How do we help them understand how to do it all?
Yeah. So when a patient is front of you in the practice, that is priority over everything because they're there in person in front of you. So I always tell my team if there's a patient that's ready to check out, it's a quick thing. You let your patient finish what they're saying. You make eye contact with the people in front of you that you see them. So I look up and I say, okay, I see you. And then say, Miss Nelson, do you mind if I place you on hold for one moment? I'm going to check a patient out and then I'm going to get right back on the phone with you and we're going to finish up. Is that okay? And I'd never have a patient say, no, that's not okay. They're not a problem. And we check that patient out. And then boom, if another team member hears that and they say, no, 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 we got it. And then they'll say, you know what? My team member just grabbed them. We're good to stay on the line. And then they hear that like, oh, dang, they work really good together. So it's those verbal interactions with the patient, once again, setting expectations of what's going to happen. And also the patient in front of you sees that and says, wow, they know it's important that I'm standing in front of them to get checked out.
I am so excited that we're doing this series because you can see me smiling because I'm thinking of
Yeah.
all these stories over the years. So I agree with you mostly, and that's
Okay.
another thing about this, right? Like there's this
Yeah.
back and forth. But one of the things
Yeah.
that I heard you say that I love is that if another team member sees that they need help, they're like, "Oh, come over here and I'll check them out." And we're going to do a session. We're going to do a session on all different things. So people write
Yeah.
comments under what you want us to talk about. But like handoffs, I'm
Yeah.
really big in like, how do we do handoffs, which we'll talk about later. And I watched a speaker once. He teaches when he brings patients up to the receptionist or the people in the front desk, before you bring the patient up, the hygienist goes like this. And she does thumbs up or thumbs down. I'll be honest with you. This is the part I was smiling at. I thought when he says thumbs up or thumb down, if I'm on the phone with a patient and I'm in the middle of, if I have a hygienist staring at me doing this, I'm going to probably show her another finger. Like, I'm like, duh, that would stress me out. Right. But I
Yeah.
like what you said about we're watching out for each other. We're listening. We use headsets in my office. And so you
Okay.
would say, I'm about to bring a patient up, and then someone would say, oh, Laura's on the phone, bring her to me. And then that
Yeah.
way we could help each other out because we are a team. It's not just one
Yes.
person we're all
Yeah.
doing it. Right.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So I don't actually know this answer. So
Okay.
one of the things that the reason I'm here at Mango Voice is because the reality of putting a patient on hold and a patient in front of you, I've always taught a little differently than you, right?
Yes.
My thing is I don't want the phone to ring and ring and ring and not answer this phone when there's a patient in front of you. And a lot of times
Yes.
doctors have taught the person in front of you is more important than the phone call, and I disagree. But there
Yeah.
really has
That's fine.
there's not been a solution, right? We can
Yeah.
teach people how to multitask, but it's easy to say, pay attention to the phone call, don't pay attention. Like,
Yes.
when you're in it, you're in it.
Yep.
But the AI that's coming out now about phones,
Yes.
one of the things that I love about having AI is that I will have an option, maybe not yet, maybe in the future, but I will have an option where AI can handle that call. So tell me your
Correct.
thoughts around that, like
Yeah.
the
So
AI receptionist.
I actually love the idea. And you get mixed reviews online, right? Through my group. Like I've had some people like, that's the dumbest thing you can ever do. And don't do it. It's terrible. And I'm like, well, you're not really talking about AI to its fullest, right?
Uh-huh.
And like some offices and I've called some like medical practices where they're 100% AI agent. Like you don't talk to a human. And I agree. A lot of people don't like that, but you can integrate AI as an agent in so many good ways to one, pick up that phone on the first ring and say, "Hey, I'm Margo. I'm Satellite Family Dentistry's AI agent. I'm going to collect some information while our team is finishing up with our patients." And getting all that preliminary information ready to go for us, or like guiding and figuring out what this patient needs so that we can get on the call and be efficient with it. And rather than having to go through those 10 minutes, they've already taken care of that section. So, like, oh, thank you so much. They got the transcript. Boom. We're on the phone. And either we're calling them back, because a lot of the ways we can do it is they'll pick up that information and then the AI agent can say, we'll give you a call back. And then our team sees it, calls them back. They've got all the information. So they've already inputted that on the computer and just says, hey, Miss Nelson, Monday or Tuesday, which day's better? I have 9 a.m. And it's like they already know everything that we need. So we don't have to go through those whole things. But it's not that it's an insensitive or impersonal conversation,
Right.
right? Like
Yep.
we need to be intentional of saying, have we helped you in your fullest needs? Like, is there anything that's holding you back from getting treatment? Like asking those engaging questions, or like, I see that you said you're in pain. What's causing you pain? How long has it been? Is this something we need to get you in sooner? I know you said Mondays or Tuesdays, but I have an opening tomorrow at 8 a.m. It's Friday. Could that work for you? And making those interactions with them. But using an AI agent to buffer that volume, like especially in our practice, we get so many calls. Like it's not even funny. I honestly don't even know how many calls, but like I remember at one point I tracked we had like over 400 calls in one day. And it's like that's a lot of phone calls to field, and it's not possible with, even if I had six people. It doesn't make sense to pay all those people, but if I took six people to do it, like they're just going to be worn out, and it's just such a cluster of making sure everything's done together. Or you can have one AI agent that doesn't complain, doesn't care about how much time they're putting in, can do it consistently exact same way so they're not missing something, and then we just pick up the ball on the other side, right? We catch that pass and we run it into the end zone, and it just makes it more efficient. So it's the way we look at AI, because some people are so resistant on it, but it's like we can use it as such a good tool to make sure our practice stays more efficient and streamlined for our patient.
Right. And so for those maybe listening to this who don't know about AI yet, or dabbling in it, we're talking on this one specifically about like AI answering the phone. And we have
Yeah,
Margo, he referred to Margo at Mango, which is the AI agent, which is the reason that I'm here to help build this. Because I have a couple things in my head. The first is I had a story of a dentist I just saw at DS World, and he was like, "I will never use an AI agent again." And I was like, "Why?" And he said, "Because I had this AI agent who he didn't know who I was, who
yeah,
was answering the phones and told the patient to come in Monday at 9 o'clock. And then the patient said, 'Can I bring my daughter?' And the agent said, 'Yeah, bring your daughter.' So this patient showed up with the daughter on Monday at 9 o'clock, and he already had a patient at 9 o'clock. And this AI agent, it's another company, doesn't know how a dental office runs. And he says, what a company needs to have is somebody who understands dental." And I was like, "Hi, my name's
really,
Laura. I'm the founder of Front Office Rocks." And he's like, "You're in there, right?" Because that's the thing is AI didn't fail in this example. AI
no,
did. It's that it doesn't have the dental wisdom. So when you
correct.
actually get an AI agent that understands a part of your practice or answering the phones or whatever it is, for a dental office, just like a human understands how to answer for a dental office, then you can incorporate AI to help in these areas.
100%. And that is a problem. There's so many players in the game, especially when it comes to AI. And, I think we've talked about it a little bit, Laura, but like Mango's done a really good job. And there's a lot of other companies in the industry that have done a really good job because they understand the dental industry. But there's a lot of other ones that come in. They don't even know how to sell their product in the dental space. Two, they don't even know the applications that they can fix or why it's important that they're fixing it. They just know it's a pain point, but they don't know the depth of the pain point. And it's like, we can use AI to make so many things easier and better and keep us less stressed. And a lot of people hear AI and are like, oh, it's going to take my job. And it's like, no, it's going to support your job. It's going to help you be better. It's going to help your owner doc be happier and be like, dang, you guys are crushing it. And you're like, it's Margo. But you know what I mean? But it's an ability to get us more efficient and work better for our patients. Because we all say like, I'm for the best patient care, but like, do we really mean it if we're not willing to implement systems that make it for your best patient care?
Well, and one of the things that I was talking about is AI as a buzzword, but really it's just technology. I mean, it's been
Yeah.
around for a long time. It's just new
Oh,
technology.
100%.
And if maybe we get rid of the buzzword AI and we just say we're using new technology to help us make
Yeah.
sure we do this calls. Because I had an experience, my husband and I called, I think we're calling SDG&E or something for gas and electric, and we had to push buttons and it kept going. Sorry, wrong department. Oh, sorry. We were so
Yeah.
mad when we got to the end of that phone call. If you call Margo, she's like, "Oh, I'll take a message for you. What are you calling about? Where does it hurt? What time of the appointments do you want?" And it's pleasant and you actually
Yeah.
feel heard, right? So
Well,
the experience is better.
and the interaction with Margo is very fluid. It's not
Mhm.
like, "This is Margo."
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Calculating,
yeah,
calculating. You know what I mean? Like, you are having a legit conversation, and
yeah,
she asks questions that are pertinent to what we're doing, and I'm gonna harp on this again. Doctors that are listening, can you tell me that your team is answering questions the exact same way between all your team members every single time it's asked? I'll answer that for you, it's no.
no, yeah, right,
And same for my office, because we all either stumble or can't remember the answer to that question or, different things. And we can train our AI agents of if a patient asks this question, I want it answered this way. And guess what? They're not going to put emotion into it. They're not going to get upset because it's AI, can't get upset. And three, it's going to do exactly what you tell it to do. So if you're like patients are calling and saying, hey, do I need a pre-med? Well, these are the guidelines for pre-med and they give them to me. Obviously, it's not going to be answering all that for you, but it's going to be the same answer. Or I'm in pain and I just had an extraction. I think I might have a dry socket. Doctor's going to want to see you. We're going to call you back to get you scheduled. Like it's all those triggers. They know exactly every single time. And then the office is like, oh, yeah, we need to see them. We're going to get them on the schedule. But you get that consistency in answering questions the correct way the first time. And that also reduces patient complaints because it's not like, well, the front desk told me this,
right.
Margo's
Right.
going to do it right the first time. And that's going to help keep with the team accountability because they're going to see how the responses were done. And then they're like, yep, that's exactly what we need to do. And you get that consistency for your patients.
Which allows the employees to be able to focus a little more because they know one of the things for me is I kind of feel like Margo is a clone of me. So I know, like, for example, if it's me and like a dental assistant in the office and the dental assistant's never been trained on the phones, like I call into dental offices all the time and doctors answer the phone, like doctor's office, and I'm like, why are you answering your own phone? Right.
Yeah.
Like I want somebody answering the phone who's trained in answering the phone. So I feel like Margo is a clone of me. So I can trust if I have a patient in front of me and I want this interaction to go well, I can let this go to Margo because I know that she's going to do what I want her to do, like you said,
Yeah.
consistently every time.
Another thing we were talking about, I was talking with our owner doc, because they were talking about the AI agent with Kirk on his trip recently up in Utah. And another great tool for AI in an agent is your after hours calls, like, which is such a valuable tool that you don't like. I hear of all these offices like we trade off nightly on taking the cell phone home that go, I'm like, y'all are nuts. Like,
Uh-huh.
I would never do that. No,
Yeah.
no, 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 no. But like now, like you can just have Margo handle it. The doc can get an alert that a call came in and there's an emergency, but how it needs to be done and streamline it, and you don't have a team member you're paying to do it.
Yeah, we actually are seeing I'm starting to get the results now. I mean, offices are turning on Margo, and before Margo, like a lot of the offices the first month, only about 25% of the patients left voicemails. The first month after turning on AI, and most of these offices didn't even tell their team members. The doctor or office manager said, "Well, we'll just try nights and weekends and see how it works." Over
Yeah.
50% of the patients talked to Margo, and they didn't tell the patients
Wow.
they had AI. They just turned it
Yeah.
on and said, "Let's just see what happens." They're
Yeah.
getting patients are hanging up and moving on.
Yeah.
But in this case, they're feeling like they're getting heard and taken care of.
Yeah. Well, and it depends on how it's built. And Mango has built a really good agent, and Laura, you know front office, right? Like like the back of your hand. You understand the pain points, and that's what's most important. And when a patient calls, even if it's AI agent, if they can get what they need, that's what's most important is getting what they called for. And there's too many phone systems out nowadays, like you said, where you're like, hit number one, then number two, like number three, number five. Like I went through a phone call yesterday, it was like 18 prompts before I got to where I needed. I was like, I just want to tear out my hair right now and scream. Like, I want to punch you through this phone because this is so terrible. And
Yeah.
it's like, it doesn't need to be this way.
Well, the other thing about AI, and this didn't mean to turn into a Mango commercial, but it's like perfect segue for it. But the other thing
Yeah.
about AI is it is new and it's getting better.
Yeah.
An example is I'm playing with AI clones on video, right? Because I've been doing video for 15, 20 years and now you can do AI clones. Well, there's the new thing with AI clones is it used to be from here up. And now
Yeah.
AI clones can move their hands on like Synthesia. And so it seems
Oh,
more
nice.
natural. It's the
Yeah.
little things. And so We are building new stuff, new technology is coming out every day. So it's going to get better and better. So embracing it now, being an early adopter, maybe on phones, but maybe that's
Yeah.
not your problem. I would say most offices could use it, but maybe in other areas where your team is overwhelmed or is
Yeah.
dropping the ball or
Yeah.
just starting to bring that concept into the practice.
A tool and a tip I want to drop with people listening to this, I think it's really valuable, and it goes back. I'm gonna preface this with something that I do with my team, and it's called checking in and not checking on. So I check in with my team. I don't check on my team. Does that make sense? So like,
Yeah.
I'm not trying to catch them doing something wrong. But with that caveat, I do call my office a lot of times and just block my number, even though it's just something I need. But I just listen to how they answer the phone. And I'll tell you, almost 100% of the time, I've been very pleased with how the phone calls have been answered. But it's just that mental reminder of like, I'm calling as a pseudo patient, right? Because they don't know it's me and they answer. And it's so pleasant. But I challenge you to call your practice, and it's not to get them in trouble. You need to address this in a very specific way. If the call is under par and it's not to your expectations, they're obviously going to know once you talk to them, like, hey, I needed this, this, and this. And then when you get back, take that person just to say, hey, do you have 2 seconds? And say, I want to work on some of these skills. Say, I appreciate you answering the phones, but there's some things I think that can make it even better. And not really like say, hey, you suck at answering the phones, but more so encourage them that say, I want to elevate it to the next level. I want to give you some skills and want you to try it out and tell me how it feels. And go that way to elevate your team. And they'll really see you coming alongside them to encourage them to be better rather than be like, hey, I caught you and you're doing terrible when you answered the phone. So it's not that aspect of like trying to catch them. And that's why I wanted to preface it with that mindset behind it. But it is a great tool because I call my office a lot of times. Sometimes I call from like my wife's number and they'll see Brittany Shelley, but they don't associate that right off the bat. And I listen, I'm like, dang, they answer the phone so nice. And
Uh-huh.
it's either very encouraging or it can be some areas that you can just say, "Oh, yeah, we need to work on that." Because there's a lot of practices, man, that like you said, they're like dentist office
Yeah.
or Dr. Calhoun's. And I'm like, come on, like we
Yeah.
can be better than that.
Well, and that's part of the reason we're doing these videos because I think there's a lot of dentists who, and I have my book, brush or step away from the drill because I think I have
Yeah,
a lot of books now. I was never going to be an author. Now I have 4 books, but dentists walk by the front desk and they know that that's not how something should be handled on the phones, but they don't know how to coach them or how to use it. And so
correct.
that's why
Correct.
I'm really trying to get as many of the experts as I can talking about it, which leads me to one more little plug here, but the AI notes for
Yes.
Mango, which what the reason I'm bringing this up is because you brought up this subject. I didn't want to turn this into a Mango ad, but it makes sense. We didn't know. I remember when VoIP came out, voice over IP,
Yeah.
and they
Yeah.
could monitor our calls and we could record our calls. And I was like, nobody's recording my call. Nobody. And now I'm a big fan of it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I remember like change and evolution but we know what's going on with our phones now, but we don't know what's going on within the phone calls. We just
Yes.
assume that our employees, after we hear that greeting, that they're handling the call well. But now with
Correct.
Mango Notes, one of the benefit to it, besides putting notes in and all that, is we can actually see what's happening within the calls. What
Yes.
are your thoughts on that, or where have you seen that
I
working?
love it. Well, 2 things. We've even noticed our doctors looking into the comm logs in Open Dental and being like, seeing a limited come in, and then they automatically go to the comm log and they're like, "What did they call?" They're like, "Oh, okay." So the doctors are actually looking at it and getting a better viewpoint of why a patient's coming in. Or if there is an issue and they're like, "Hey, I called," and then they can go through also. So it's starting to bring this, full circle accountability, which is really good because now it's making the doctors aware of what's actually happening. And then the team knows the doctors are seeing it, the assistants, the hygienists. There's nowhere to hide in a bad call. But then, like what you're talking about, like with the sentiment, like in analysis, like where you can hear patients getting frustrated, you can kind of just fast forward right to where that point of the call is and see, like, is it picking up on something or is it not? Like, there's been times where I'm like, oh, yeah, like they raise their voice because their kids were screaming in the back of the car versus they're not screaming at the front desk. But then I've also found ones where, you say it's green, 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 then it's like, boom, red. And you're like, oh, and they're like, just upset. And then you can listen like how they handled it. And there's been some where I'm like, well, I wouldn't have handled it that way. And here's why. And like, if we're using dismissive phrases rather than saying, I understand what you're saying, let me try and help you. This is what we're going to do versus like, no, we can't do that. Right. So it gives us the opportunity to look at that back and forth and give the team member an opportunity to sit with us and say, it's not just me. Like our software is picking up on it too of what's going on. So
Right.
let's work on this, right? So it's starting to honestly take some of that weight off of you as the office manager or under doc of like, hey, I'm not just being rude. Like our software is picking up on your inability to resolve conflict over a phone call.
Yep, and I actually see I love that you're talking about your doctors, looking at that too, because I could see doctors doing that, looking in to see what it is. One day, being an early adopter with AI in some area is a good thing because we're training it, and we're learning, and we're growing, and the companies like Mango are really putting a lot into it. But also, I see one day that this AI agent answering the phones is gonna talk to the AI agent that calls the insurance to verify, that's gonna talk to the AI agent that schedules, that's gonna talk to the doctor. So when the doctor walks
Yeah.
in, the AI agent in its ear or wherever it's gonna be on its whatever, is gonna say, "This patient called in on Tuesday with this, and this is what happened, and here's" like, it's all gonna tie together eventually
Yeah.
to make our whole practice more efficient and effective.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's
Yeah,
going to be amazing.
it's gonna be amazing. We got a while to go, but it's gonna be amazing.
Yeah. I got one more point to make for
Yeah,
you because I think it's really important because we're talking about phones and phone skills. And you may talk on this, but it's really important for us to understand there's no body language when it comes to a phone call, right? Like there's none. We can't pick up on that on the other side, and the other side can't pick up on that on us. So you really have to be aware of the word choice and tones that you use because that turns into your body language over the phone. So things that you may think don't sound rude can also come off in a whole different manner. And I've experienced this with hearing them say something and seeing their body language, but then hearing what's received on the other end and their response. And I'm like, I know that's not what you meant, but they don't see that. And vice versa. I hear some phone calls. I'm like, well, yes, but we're kind of digging into that emotion behind it. So we really have to be careful of like our vocal body language, if that makes sense,
I
and how
agree.
we talk.
And I didn't get this permission from you, so I'm just gonna give a little hint here.
Okay.
We are not trying at Mango, we are not trying to get the humans off the phones. We are just
Yeah.
trying to help we're busy in the front office, we've got a lot on our plate and all of that. So the humans still need to be really darn good at answering the phones, and the little tips
Yes.
and tricks that you're giving and I'm getting from all the other people too. It
Yeah.
would be amazing if there was actual event where we could, like, train on phones. Like, do you know of any groups or organizations that might be planning any sort of, like, I don't know, 2-day phone training or something?
There just may be, Laura. I love how you're plugging that. So there is something very exciting. I won't give any
It's in the works.
names, but it is in the works, and it has to do with both parties here that are talking. That's going to be really amazing next year. So just stay tuned because there's some announcements coming very very soon. Just working on some back end stuff right now. But yes, it's so important. There is some great tools coming forward with the human aspect because phones is just the beginning of it, and we still have that patient interaction. So we really have to master that to get your patients to have the best experience possible.
I love that. I love that. So
Yeah.
if you're interested in learning more, put a comment here, subscribe to this channel. What is your group? How can they find you? How can they find announcements
Yeah.
over there?
Yes. So Dental Office Manager Leadership Network. It's on Facebook. I know the name's long. You can also go to dentalomleadershipnetwork.com and you can follow the Facebook page through there also. And we're posting every single day, all things dental management, dental growth, marketing, phones, anything you can imagine. Drop comments in the group too if there's things that you want to learn. Say, hey, we watch this channel. We're posting the videos in there also. And Laura's been great at getting me snippets and things that we're talking about. Those will also be dropped in the group, throughout the weeks. So we're trying to give as much content as we possibly can to the management and dental industry for you guys to be able to grow and be successful. Everything through the group is for free. So events in the future, there will be a small cost, but it's all geared towards you getting the best education at the quality price.
I love it. I love it. So feel free to tag me, tag Zach. If there's
Yes.
a topic you want us to talk about that we're not talking about yet, we've got, as you can tell, we went on 35 minutes on phones, but we got
Yes.
so many things to talk about. Well, we'd love to know from anybody who's watching this, what else do you want to talk about? And on that note, thank you so much. I'm glad you got your voice back for
Thank
this.
you. I
And
appreciate it, Laura.
I will see you next time.
Sounds good.